Good morning. My name is Lauren Heistad, self-professed messenger of change. We've been on this journey for quite a while, haven't we? Yeah. So, continuing through with reading pieces of my book, Homecoming, chapter by chapter. It is my life journey, but it is also a compilation of teachings, basically, as well as my ever-professed biblical entanglement. I think today's chapter has more to do with teaching, but hey, I appreciate that you keep showing up. I know for myself, I keep questioning why I do. But as I've said many times over, even on the days I don't want to show up, there is a pull inside of me that is definitely undeniable. So I have another sip of coffee and try to convince myself that it's okay to keep going. Chapter 56, Meant to Be. Okay. No, I'm not ready. I find that there are many times in life that we feel energy depleted, no hope, not wanting to move forward. That's me today. I find that a lot of people that I'm coming into contact with recently feel like there's no reprieve from this craziness that we're all going through and feeling on an energetic plane, but then also in our physical reality, right? That it's not changing when we want it to or how we want it to. Now, those are the times that I actually do say that we're forgetting an aspect about co-creation. The divine part. The divine part. So it's interesting because I know this chapter is about looking at the other side of that, or at least I believe it is. But I also wanted to point out that we're never meant to become so self-actualized and empowered, aware beings in this world that we forget that there is a higher plan and divine dance happening, and that we're not doing this alone. Even if you feel like you are alone, you're not, because the universe is full of divine connection, and that even on the days that you feel like you just can't possibly put one more step forward, I encourage you to just take a step. Okay? That's what I'm going to do. One more step. Okay. So the term meant to be is actually drastically overused in our society. And I find it nothing short of an insulting excuse, an explanation to justify the realities of this world. True. If we can say with confidence that it is meant to be, then surely that is our truth, right? This is a current teaching within today's society. If we are positive enough about any event or occurrence, see the good side of every situation, and minimize the impact trauma has on our life and the lives of all others, then we don't have to look at the other side of our reality. Besides, darkness pulls everyone together and catapults our compassionate human nature to jump into action. We are of the light, always divine in nature, and any event or occurrence causing discord is simply meant to be, created to help unearth our dark nature and embrace all aspects of our being, the I am. The other school of thought contends we're full of sin, and that if only we confess those sins and our inherent evil nature, then we will be saved. No need to change them or work at lifting our current reality. Simply confess that we are of darkness, always sinful in nature, and unable to find our way without some sort of divine intervention. More shockingly, someone has already been sent to take on the sins of the world, so we don't even have to change our ways. Only believe in the power of someone else's ability to do so. Any event or occurrence causing discord is simply meant to be, as a punishment by God, the great I am. I call bullshit on both accounts. In truth, when we are willing to label all occurrences in this world as God's greater plan, divine will, destiny, or predetermined learning experiences from which we need to grow, then we're not taking full responsibility for the state of this world. Sadly, we're taking no responsibility at all. Fact. I've seen and witnessed unplanned deaths. I have. I've watched the souls of those whose lives were cut short by the free will of another search in agony for an understanding and clarity on what has occurred and why their lives were taken. I've helped more souls move back into the light than humanly fathomable, while watching a transformation of needed forgiveness to those who caused harm, before being able to reunite back with the divine. Let that sink in. I've worked to help heal the souls of those who were raised in homes or societies of abuse, whether it was physical or emotional, their hearts dark with anguish, and their minds confused with both feelings of betrayal and discord. Especially when taught they made those choices for themselves at a soul level to learn and grow. Or worse yet, we're not worthy of equal human rights, unable to experience life without abuse, oppression, or discrimination. Within every occurrence, there's one common denominator. Their lives were changed, manipulated, or halted because of something not even close to divine. Not even close. That for one moment, by accident, force, or coercion, another human being made a choice with their own free will that wrongfully impacted another. There are many in this world who say there's no right or wrong way to act or behave, that we are not to judge the actions of ourselves or others, and that we have no impact on anyone but ourselves. In my mind, if you can't apply that teaching to the general masses and global scenarios, including acts of violence, mental or physical abuse, and mass genocide, then you simply cannot use that line of logic. You can't. When choices we make negatively affect, segregate, harm, control, or bring ill will to another human being, that is just plain wrong. Wrong. Do not justify those decisions by citing divine plans or actions that are meant to be. That is an abomination to the beautiful creations of this world and our ability to consciously co-create through our thoughts, intentions, and loving actions. Find the balance between these two extremes. We may be from and of the light, but on many occasions, we certainly don't act like we are. Do you think you're above this reproach? Take the time to monitor your thoughts daily. Most of society's reflections and actions are still coming from a selfish, judgmental, segregating, or negative mentality. Take a look. This state of mind has been ruling our collective conscious for far too long. Exerting influence over another's free will is by no means meant to be. The only really thing meant to be in this world is peace on earth. Abusing others is by no means divine will. Manipulating the basic human rights of another will never fall under the category of meant to be. Ever. Ever, ever. Death can be used as an exit point when our soul officially decides it's time to go home. Any other occurrence, including someone leaving this world in a tragic force made by another, was never meant to be. Forgivable? Yes. Yes. Understandable? because we have yet to comprehend how this world operates by free will? Absolutely. But meant to be? Never. Oh, here we go. Another letter. Dear darkness, in myself and all others. Let's cut the crap, shall we? I did not become stronger and more confident in myself because of the presence you have had in my life. I became stronger and more confident in myself despite the presence and influence you have had in my life. And guess what? There are many more just like me rising from the ashes. We did not come to earth to experience darkness so that we may become more resilient and learn life lessons. Nope. We came here already strong and vibrant in our own inner knowing, in an effort to rise above the current darkness of this world. Eager, very eager to finally experience life to its fullest, without our spark or soul being lessened. Perspective, old friend. Perspective. But then again, you always did see things ass backwards, while insisting you know best. While we're on the topic, there is most certainly a right and wrong way to exist in this realm and treat all others. Disrespect, non-compromise, aggression, manipulating others' realities, and sending out more hate vibes are not the answer. The shadows of this earth may be rising to the surface in their selfish pursuits and narrow-minded thinking. But mark my words. Mark my words. This too shall pass. In fact, the jig is up. Enlightenment and heart-centered living is the new warrior in town. Kindest regards, bringer of the truth. Okay. Mastering your SOULworks. The I am movement of the millennial age tends to combine society into a unified and glorified soup of soul potential, source potential. At the other end of the spectrum, the great I am movement of the biblical times tends to segregate people into worthy and unworthy. The higher truth to our existence and authentic divine nature resides somewhere between these two extremes. Reality check, hey? From my own personal observations, there are an amazing number of people awakening to their own soul potential, yet struggling to stay within the high vibrational state on a regular basis, right? Hard to take that step forward and continue going in that high vibration when that's not what we're faced with every day. It is. It's hard. I've watched countless others be confused with all the different teachings out there, witness people morph before my very eyes into their shadow self on more occasions than I care to count. Observed many who, quite honestly, prefer to stay oblivious to the fact that our world is in need of repair. And regrettably even encountered those who are more than willing to leave this world behind in the hopes of finding something more peaceful than our current existence. That's a sad truth. More disheartening of all are the countless people who claim they're good enough, worthy enough, and ascended enough to just live life free of judgment, no concerns of the moral rights or wrong, oozing with little to no regard on how our thoughts, intentions, and actions are affecting others. Well, my friends, if that were true, the world would not be in the state it is today. Why do I know that? Why do I know that? Because we've already been living that way for thousands of years, just on the other extreme of the spectrum. You remember, don't you? Full of sin, helpless to find our way on our own, powerless to the judgment coming down upon us. The only difference I see between traditional teachings and some of the New Age movement is that we have swung the pendulum to the other extreme with concepts like pure source energy, no judgment required, powerful beyond measure, and no need to compromise our individual goals for the sake of anyone or anything. Does that really sound like the makings of a new world? There's a balance. There's a balance I feel we must move towards somewhere between those two extremes, both individually, within, and then within the collective conscious. The point where we know, believe, and teach we are from source energy instead of pure evil. Of course we are. But with the awareness and honesty, the honesty of not yet living within that full embodiment of the great I am. Because let's face it, we all have room for improvement. We do. The midpoint between selfless sacrifice and pure selfishness. Yeah, I just said that. I have to say it again, actually. Between the midpoint, we're aiming for the midpoint between selfless sacrifice and pure selfishness. Two extremes that seem to be playing out in the world right now. The midpoint would be more like compromise when needed. Respect all others by doing your part to clean up your own thoughts, actions, and intentions, while ensuring we encourage and cheer on all others as they learn to evolve into the next stage of our human evolution. Not an every man for himself, leaving the pack behind to fend for our own survival kind of mentality. Is that really what you think will create peace on earth? Abandon all others with no belief in their higher potential beyond your own? Or worse yet, staying status quo and honestly believing we are doing the best we can? I implore this world to find the sweet spot, somewhere in the middle, understanding. I read that wrong. Take two. I implore this world to find the sweet spot somewhere in the middle, understanding there are laws that do govern this universe. And yes, that does include right and wrong ways to treat all others. We seem to have moved from needing to appease a raging God to not needing to appease anyone at all other than ourselves. Do you really think that will work? From my perspective, anything less than respect for yourself and all others will achieve nothing more than repeating the past. Now, perhaps you think I'm being judgmental or old school to point out that there are obvious rights and wrongs in this world. However, as I've said before, if you can't globalize a teaching to all people, including those who negatively exert their own force on someone else's basic human rights, then the teaching should not be applied at all. Do you really think that exerting force or negative influence over another is a divine will? A lesson we need to learn or experience? I don't believe so. I don't believe so. I think it is just the sad reality of where we find ourselves in the world today. So let's look at this a bit closer. Can we say then we should always follow our joy, regardless of how that makes others feel? I'm very sure that there are parents of school shooting victims and countless other victims of crime in this world who would disagree with that blanketed statement to follow that intuitive nudge. Because spoiler alert here, not all intuitive nudges and soulful desires take into account the well-being of all others. Some are just basic, selfish acts of their own twisted perspective of joy. Right or wrong, never even being considered. Now, joy is traditionally a higher vibrational state. That is true. But how do you define and differentiate between all others and their state of joy? I know many in this world who find joy in harming others, using their power to exploit or abuse. Is that a teaching that we can really rely on to move us forward into a new era? I, for one, believe we have to go back to the basics. Love and respect. Love and respect yourself and all others, period. The world will not change unless we do. find the balance within. And I promise you, we will experience it outwardly in a world that is most certainly craving change. No one's being left behind. So we might as well start working together. See the source potential in all things. And create a more unified fashion to helping ourselves and all others see, experience, and be the light. Our collective programming must certainly change. But true shifts in perspective will only happen globally when we find the balance in our teachings and daily lives. Transformation is always underway. Did you realize that? Transformation is always underway, which is likely why many of us feel that we're not making any progress even though we're transforming. It is up to us, both individually and collectively, to decide what kind of transformation. Hiding from our reality won't change it. Turning a blind eye won't negate it. Acknowledging all the darkness in this world will not create more. Limiting the soul potential of any co-creator of this world will not suffice. If only that were true, we would have changed the world eons ago. It's time to find balance, and that is the honest to God truth. Dear darkness, in myself and all others, I know that you know, that I know, that you know absolutely nothing in regards to enlightenment. You are the walking, talking contradiction to the word love. Quite frankly, I am shocked that you're still trying to pawn yourself off as an essential component of the creation and human experience. While we're on the topic, you should also know you are so not the other half to my whole. You are the whole within the collective conscious working overtime to keep society in the darkness of duality. Source energy is the unified expression of pure love, nothing else. So I realize this is hard for you to grasp, but we don't need darkness to balance or complete us. Nope, we don't. What we need is for darkness to take a step back so that we can individually and collectively heal our shadow side and become the divine beings of light we were intended to be. Annoying for the controlling, ego-centered types, I do realize, but you can't fake your way into this divine state of mind, nor does the awareness of its existence automatically mean you embody it. This transformation takes dedicated inner soul works to authentically learn how to stand in your own divine potential while seeing the potential in all others. I am witnessing many light workers learn the true ingredient to this vibrational shift every single day. No rush, but the clock is ticking. and I'm officially putting you on notice. Darkness, you are going down. Well, up, actually. But you will eventually get used to the difference in altitude and attitude. Kindest regards, bringer of the truth. Okay, your move. Right after I take a break. Okay. Your move. Review your life path. Go back over critical life events that shaped or changed the course of your life. Feel the energy of the situation and review if excessive force of an individual's rights were manipulated. Whether it was you being forced to do something that was not for your highest good, or whether you were the one crossing boundaries. Do an honest review of those moments in time. Let go of the teaching that these life-altering events were meant to be. Yes, you may have become stronger or more resilient because of them. Yes, it may have altered your path and forced different, more positive life choices down the road. However, can you honestly look at the energy and say you asked for the unfoldment to occur? It was a punishment from upon high, or that those events were meant to be for your highest good? Not a chance. Not a chance. At this point, all we can do, individually and collectively, is acknowledge where boundaries were crossed, free will shattered, and truths have been obscured or misunderstood. Then forgive. Forgive yourself and all others in all directions of time, while vowing to never cross or allow personal boundaries to be crossed ever again. That, my friend, it is what is truly meant to be. Next, balance the I ams. I don't think there's one person, no, I know there is not one person on this earth that is so full of darkness that there's no hope for light. Nor is there anyone in this world so full of light that they don't have their own transgressions from time to time. Accept that no one is perfect, but do strive to be the best version of yourself and your soul potential that you can be. Many people are way too hard on themselves. Some tend to be a little too easy, with no expectations or bar set for creating change. Find the middle ground and identify with the great I am, while striving to embody that state of mind as often as possible. Next, complete a historical cleanse. We have all played our parts in history. We have. Both our ancestors and ourselves are the total summation of the events, experiences, and vibration within this world. Always. Identify critical life events that have affected you or your loved ones from generations past. Have compassion and send love to release and reset both the understandings and actions that have echoed and continue to echo throughout the halls of all time. These events were not a punishment from upon high, nor were they mistake-free actions from divine beings that speak, hear, or do no evil. This is not a fall from grace that was meant to be. This is the grace of which we were meant to uphold, falling through the cracks of time and conscious potential of our souls. Next, double check intuition. Always be sure to check where intuition and energy originates from, keeping in mind the goal of guidance always being divine in nature. Divine in nature embodies love and would never harm or cross the personal boundaries of another living soul on this earth. Ever. If you hear otherwise, it is time for an upgrade with both your guides and your own vibration. What you are tapping into is nowhere even close to divine. Not even close. And by the way, guidance that arrives within your awareness that is not divine in nature does not originate from a deceptive satanic figure either. It arrives within your awareness from a collection of thoughts between your own ego, that of others around you, as well as the historical beliefs, opinions, or judgments towards yourself and all others. Don't give this energy any more power or credence than it deserves. Thank it for its input and then promptly send it towards the light. Next, honor the deceased. I find the spirits of those whose lives were cut short by the actions of another feel confused, violated, and frustrated with the abrupt ending to their life path. Of course, we knowingly enter this world, understanding full well that we are susceptible to the free will, cruelty, coercion, or lack of awareness from ourselves and all others. However, there's still a shock to the system and grieving process one must go through when faced with this type of demise. The most effective way I have ever found to heal and release these spirits from the lower vibrations of our earthly dimension is to listen. Listen to their story and offer compassion. In truth, they just want to be heard. Mediumship has been feared and conveyed as an evil practice for far too long. Communicating with the spirit world offers unprecedented levels of healing from the past. Now, if your mediumship senses have opened up and yet you fear this level of communication, my best advice is to just be there for them and hold space. For the time being, you are the light that they see in the world. Help them heal so their own inner light may once again shine and safely guide them back home. On the flip side, the spirits of those who have done wrong by another are just as vulnerable and broken. They're not evil in nature or intent. They have just moved further and further and further away from our true divine source potential. I find it an effective practice to call upon your perceived scariest of souls to truly understand this perspective. Know that they can't harm you because light trumps all things. If you are opening to the spirit world, it is critical to face all fears and to be that strong advocate for both light and healing potential. Opening up, yet staying in the lower vibrations of fear and powerlessness helps no one. And lastly, right your wrongs. It's never too late. It's never too late to hold the intention to correct misguided actions from the past. As I said before, nobody's perfect. You don't have to pick up the phone and apologize to everyone whose boundary you have ever intentionally or unintentionally pushed. But it is important to admit when you have done wrong by another. Even if completed on a soul level, every time you acknowledge your misguided intentions and send love to the past, it sends out new waves of interconnectivity and mutual respect. Mutual respect. Time is irrelevant in terms of energy. It can always be improved upon by making amends. I'll see you there.